A girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says dumb things sometimes. Is that the next US president? I'm Anelise Borges, and on this episode of The Stream, we ask whether Kamala Harris is Brat and if that could help her win the top job.
Okay, guys, we got the big endorsement.
Who, Pelosi? No, Charlie XCX.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
They want brats to run this country. They already do enough damage.
You don't understand the essence of Brat Summer.
I hate how I can feel the propaganda of the Kamala campaign working on me. Like, oh my God, that's a politician, actually.
No, I wanna hit my track. Are you bumping that? Till the windows crack, I'll be bumping that. No.
If you've been online lately, you've likely seen Kamala Harris dancing, laughing, or talking about coconut trees and, quote, the context of all in which we live and what came before us. The vice president and U.S. presidential candidate has been riding the Gen Z wave and trying to get more young people involved and interested in politics. But will her personality be enough? And what about her policies? And how dangerous can it be to mix pop culture with politics? To help us answer those questions and more, we have joining us today Christina Chery, a student and content creator from Miami, Nesreen Hasan, an organizer with the U.S. Palestinian Community Network in Chicago, and podcast host Madison Williams, joining us from Altadena, California. Thank you so much for joining us here on the stream today. We're super happy to have you. First, let me get Christina to help us understand Brat on Gen Z vocabulary and this summer. What does it stand for, Christina?
Okay, so BRAT is not even an acronym. It's something that Charlie XCX made up. And it's basically a girl who's kind of like messy. It's like a regular girl. She's messy. Sometimes she's right. Sometimes she's wrong. She likes to party. She enjoys a night out. It's a regular girl enjoying summertime, really.
And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because this Brat Summer set the internet on fire, but it wasn't restricted to TikTok and the online world. Madison, can you help us understand how this British singer, who obviously cannot vote in the US, has helped shape, the political debate in America right now?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think that in a post-pandemic world, a lot of people are hungry to attach themselves to cultural moments. We saw that with Barbenheimer last summer, with the Barbie and the Oppenheimer, and going to the theater, wearing pink and taking pictures. So I think that Brat Summer has taken over this current summer. It's been the soundtrack of the summer. It explains an attitude. And I think Charlie XCX was successful in branding it that way. But I think once she came out and said Kamala is Brat on Twitter, a lot of people were excited that she publicly endorsed Kamala Harris, especially considering all the drama of the campaign and the Biden campaign and Biden dropping out. So I think that kind of became an inadvertent launch point for the Kamala Harris campaign to target young people and kind of create a stan culture, have stan culture kind of infiltrate politics for sure.
It's interesting because, young people were quite lost when Biden was the candidate, and Harris certainly brought some fresh air into this context. But I really like what you said about the post-pandemic need for belonging. Nesreen, what is your take here in terms of Kamala capitalizing on this, but also what does it say about U.S. politics?
It's not new, right? Where we have a politician using pop culture to identify, especially with youth. And most youth, compared to the Republican Party, vote for Democrats, right? So we remember Hillary Clinton going on The Breakfast Club in 2016 and, using a famous line from Lemonade, from Beyonce's song, and saying she has a hot sauce bottle in her purse. We had Obama give a shout out to the Black Eyed Peas. I'm a millennial, so I remember that. And that kind of enthralled me to go out and vote for him. So it's not new. I think the politicians do this to humanize themselves. And especially with the Democratic Party, they want to show that they're more hip. I'm aging myself up by saying that, but and to be more in tune with the youth. So at the same time, it's something that's not new, right? Politicians usually do this particularly Democrats, go for this.
On the power of this particular phenomenon, which says a lot about parasocial relationships and how important they have become to this generation, here's Nikki on TikTok. Take a look.
I have a theory that Brat Summer will be studied in political science classrooms like 50 years from now. Charlie XCX is not even American. She literally could not even vote in this election if she wanted to. Yet literally 3 words and this concept of Brat Summer completely like propelled so much attention and so much like feeling of like community and camaraderie around this candidate, and how that is literally has the potential to shape like global politics. Nobody's saying you can like snap your fingers and make a US senator do what you want. It's about that you have these audience of hundreds of millions of people who like resonate with you in a much deeper level, in a much larger scale than any one individual who is not like in that tax bracket.
So, Christina, we said this is not necessarily new, but this push to jump on the social media trend has definitely been a way for Kamala Harris to then, I don't know, appeal to younger audiences. Does she really care about the youth, or does she understand she needs them? And is that distinction clear for voters as well, you think?
I think, I don't think it's necessarily too clear. I do think that she cares about the youth. I think she cares about the community. There are things in her policies, there are stuff that she's worked on before when she was a general attorney that really reflects how she feels about her community. In specifics to the youth, I do think it was more of a strategy, because it just so happened that Charlie XCX tweeted that she was, posted that she was Brat. And I do believe that Harris did not even know what Brat meant and how to actually like deal with that. It's just because of all the momentum that this has been getting, because everybody's making memes, everyone's making videos about it, that she herself joined that movement to basically get the youth's attention. So I don't think her using Brat really reflects how she cares about the youth, but I can say that she cares about the community that she's working for.
That's interesting. Madison, do her policies reflect and fit this kind of persona she's trying to portray here? In this particular case, I mean, the particular Brat trend.
You know, I would just have to say that we're still waiting for some concrete policies from Kamala. Obviously, the DNC is happening as we speak. And so a lot of people are waiting on bated breath to hear what a Harris-Walz ticket administration is going to stand for, what they're going to center, and what they're really going to push in terms of pushing America into the future. So I'm excited to hear more about that. But I think a lot of people are basing their critiques of policies or things that they think Kamala Harris will agree with based on her track record in public service, as well as her current record being VP. So based off of that, I would say my personal opinion of what a Brat Summer or what Brat means, I wouldn't necessarily think she like completely fits into that role based on her old policies, but I hope that that changes. And I hope that, you know, using this momentum from Brat, she will be able to really appeal to the need of the youth in this country for sure.
Nesreen, what is your take and your personal opinion, if you don't mind sharing? Is Kamala Harris, I don't know, Biden with better cognitive skills? Is it more of the same? Or would you say that this this candidate really brings something new to the table?
I would just say it's Biden with better cognitive skills. You have to remember, she is second in command of the Biden administration. She's not some intern that just got hired. Yes, does she have as much power as Biden? No, but she is part of an administration that has sent the largest aid package to Israel and is, you know, an administration that is supplying mass weapons to the Palestinian genocide. So I think, you know, she has the same, you know, even though she's called for a ceasefire, but she hasn't called for an arms embargo. You know, it's similar to him saying words but are meaningless. Is she nicer? Is her demeanor kinder? Yes. But she still has the same policies. And at the same time, she is also a friend of AIPAC, just like Biden and just like Trump and other Republicans.
Part of a bigger system, isn't it? I mean, it's all very interesting. And this particular debate about her policies, especially with regards to what's happening in Gaza. I mean, Christina, Mixing pop culture and politics, we asked at the start whether or not that's dangerous, because I feel like it makes it harder to have a real discussion about the policies, doesn't it?
It does, especially because referring back to the question that you were asking, Madison, because Kamala doesn't represent Brat at all. In no way, shape, or form would I think of Brat and think of Kamala Harris. But because pop culture, because Charlie XCX, again, pop culture got in so well with it, it just so happened that she posted that. And I believe, like, from immediately, if I was a strategist working with Kamala Harris, I would be like, jump on that too, because Charlie XCX, she's like one of the mainstream artists that the youth knows. The youth knows her from movies. They know her from shows. They love her. They have a very strong parasocial relationship with her. And so whatever she says, in a way, for a lot of youth goes. But when you mix something like that with politics, then you have a lot of young people who unfortunately are not going to make the research on the policies, are not going to make the research on foreign affairs and domestic affairs. They're not going to make this much research. What's going to happen is they're going to then develop themselves a parasocial relationship with who they perceive Kamala Harris to be, which unfortunately right now is Brat. So
it's very interesting. And again, it can be very dangerous. Madison, things got quite heated when two prominent content creators fought online over what Kamala represented, a woman, a person of color, versus what she would be willing to fight for, notably Palestine. This is one user's take on how people should be addressing this division. Take a look.
And we've all heard subsequent conversations about the divide between Black Americans and pro-Palestinian activists. We shouldn't be policing the vote of Black Americans when this choice directly impacts their safety and their lives. Now, don't get me wrong, Kamala is an imperfect candidate, but we can still criticize and hold her accountable while still understanding that she is the better option for everyone. Collectively pressuring and collectively asserting support for Kamala are not mutually exclusive ideas. We need to keep pushing, though. And we need to stop allowing this divisiveness and this anti-Blackness to exist within our community. We should be working with Black creators, Black activists, to ensure not only our safety as Arabs who are threatened in the Middle East, but ensure their safety as well as Black Americans who are threatened here at home.
Madison, your thoughts on this divisiveness, but also on Kamala's identity and how much that is playing into this debate right now.
Yeah, so just to quickly piggyback off of Christina's for a question before mine, I think that pop culture plays a huge role in this. And I think in American politics, there's a concerted effort to kind of deify our politicians to make them above critique, which I think plays directly into identity politics that are kind of fueling the divide that we're seeing. It really hurt my heart to see what was happening publicly with the Black American Coalition and the pro-Palestinian coalition, just because so much of our struggles are intertwined. And it's so unfortunate that we have to sit and watch them fight as if their issues are divorced from each other or completely separate. I think that because a lot of the feelings by the pro-Palestinian side, I think there's a lot of betrayal because once Kamala was announced to take over for Biden, there seemed to be a lot of blind support for Kamala Harris without policy, without real promises in terms of stopping what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank and what's been going on and what we've been seeing for the past 10, 11 months. And I think that the celebrity and the blurring of the line between public servant and celebrity in American politics plays a role in fueling this divide for sure. And I think also, you know, knowing what her identity was, identity politics were definitely going to play a part in this election no matter what. We saw it when she was running for president in 2020. We saw it with the Obama campaign in 2008 and 2012. Both negatively and positively impacting these campaigns due to their and centering their identity. So it's not surprising that it's showing up here. But what did hurt my heart was that we kind of fell into this like divisiveness that didn't need to happen, because ultimately there is a concerted effort to keep us divided and keep us thinking our struggles are not one and the same.
Very important point. Nesreen, can you share your thoughts on this and on the pressure of people to vote a certain way right now?
Yeah, I just want to make clear, like, we understand the fear of a Trump presidency. My organization and many Palestinians were in the forefront when Trump got elected. We protested him before he got elected and during his presidency. So we understand those fears are valid, voting against him. But at the same time, when we hear Democrats saying to us, Trump is going to be worse on Gaza. I mean, you're talking to Palestinians that have lost hundreds of family members. I work with youth that have lost hundreds of family members, 20 family members. There's absolutely no universities left in Gaza. 5% of the population, according to the Lancet, is decimated. So it's hard for Palestinians in particular to hear how worse it can get. Like, what is your definition of worse if there's already a genocide? Again, we shouldn't be thinking in the binary. This conversation is very nuanced. And yes, we have to understand people's fears of Trump, but we also have to understand people feeling betrayed by the Democratic Party. I just also want to make note that Palestinians also organized protests against the RNC. Yes, they weren't in mass numbers compared to the DNC that we had this past week. I'm going to a rally today. This Monday, we had nearly 20,000. But the reason why we're protesting the Democrats and wanting to hold Kamala and Biden accountable, because this is the administration that has given the most aid to Israel and is continuing to fund this genocide.
You make very important points, and we'll get back to one of them specifically. But by the sound of things, and when we look into the next few months, and according to TikTok, Brat Summer is almost over, and the Muir fall is next. And of course, the entire world will be watching the U.S. elections because U.S. politics have so much impact on all of us. But many American voters are still wondering what to do with their ballot. Take a look.
Okay, so my question is, if you're not going to vote for Kamala because she supported a G side or because she's a cop or whatever your reason is, what's your plan then? Vote independent and then what? I'm genuinely curious because I was ready to vote independent party when it was Biden against Trump, but that was mainly because to me, Biden wasn't a viable candidate in any way, shape, or form. It's like he wasn't fully conscious, and I didn't want to support a candidate that I felt like would not be capable of leadership in any way. Now that Kamala's an option, even though she's not the best option, and even though she's, someone else put it like a war criminal, and every other president has been a war criminal, she's still a better option than Trump. And when Biden was the other candidate, I didn't necessarily really felt that way. I felt like we're gonna lose no matter what. So to those voting independent, what's your long game plan here? Like, I wanna know, why would this be helpful?
So, Christina, Nesreen just mentioned the word binary there, and many of us still don't understand how the world's most powerful country can offer such limited options when it comes to voting for president. I mean, will things be slightly different this year? There's the uncommitted vote movement, there is the option for a third party, or will it be the lesser of two evils kind of discourse again?
I think for majority of people, actually, it won't be either. I believe majority of people are like outside of the platform of TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. A majority of Americans are like older millennials and Gen X, and these guys have already made up their minds about who Kamala Harris is for people and for them. I believe instead there's an interpersonal, parasocial, I suppose, relationship that these generations have with Harris, kind of reflective of the kind of relationships that they may have had with Obama. But I also think for the people on TikTok, it might start a trend of people kind of saying, you know what, I don't want to vote for either party. I want to start looking at independent options. But I don't think it's enough for us to basically imply that this will be a thing. I think most people are still going to make up their minds and go to the booth and vote for either or, because I also think something that's really important is just how late Biden jumped off the board, just how late he was like, you know what, I'm off the game. This is not for me anymore. This is who I want instead of me. It happened very late. There was not enough time. And I know people are stressed about that. People are saying we can do stuff, we can organize, we can continue to do a lot, but there's simply not enough time for us to talk about independent parties or third parties. There's not enough time for us to put all that money together for all that organization. There's a lot of work that's required, especially there's a lot of attention that's required from people, and we don't have that attention right now.
It's so interesting that you say it's such a short amount of time, because, I mean, in other countries, an entire election is done in less time than what you guys have now. And obviously, the costs of campaigning in the U.S., all these things are so foreign to me, for example, as a Brazilian. It's mind-boggling. Madison, can I get your take here? Do you think that, I don't know, we are coming to a time where more people might be opting for a third option and not stick to the Republican Democrat binary type of system?
You know, I have to agree with Christina on her point, just in that there's a slim population of people that are still undecided. I think that a lot of people have made their decisions, have kind of made their bed and are ready to sleep in it. And I think most people are going to vote between the two parties. I think, though, that it's important to note that every election cycle, every 4 years, well, every 2 years, but every 4 years when it's a presidential election, that is the window to push your agenda and push what you want the future to look like, and pressure politicians to reflect that in their policy. And I think that there's been a lot of infighting and demonizing people who are making sure to push their issue during this very small window of time where you can hold a politician accountable. I mean, it's important to remember that these people are auditioning. They're interviewing for a position, for a job that we pay for with our public tax dollars. And I think that it would behoove the American public to remember that. And so blindly voting, some people are going to blindly vote just based off of some of the fear mongering, and obviously to stop a Trump presidency, another Trump presidency, and what that could do to us domestically. But I think ultimately demonizing people who are using this opportunity is the wrong thing to do. I think that it's a strategy. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's important to remember that we hire these people and they need to earn our votes. So I agree with Christina, but I do think that our politics are really based in this kind of celebrity culture that really fuels a lot of the intense opinions about who you should vote for and who you shouldn't vote for. And I think that ultimately other countries look at us crazy for how we do things. And I completely agree, because we need to hold these people accountable and remember that the people have the power here.
And I think perhaps this generation, your generation, Gen Z, are among the most eloquent when it comes to actually understanding that politicians work for you guys and not the other way around. I mean, Nesreen, your thoughts on the future of U.S. politics. What do you think is going to happen with this election and in the years to come?
Well, I'm unsure what's going to happen with this election, but I think there's something unique that this election is doing. This is, many people don't understand that many Arab Americans and Palestinians are blue or Democratic or progressive voters. And so for us to, make a demand before election, usually it was like this whole idea that we first elect them and then we get what we want. I think more and more people, especially young folks, are understanding, if we're going to vote for you, we need this to happen. And I think that's very important, because this is where the leveraging comes in. And I feel that even though, we are celebrating politicians, and it's always been like in American politics to do, I feel like with this new generation and them having so much access to footage, what's happening in Gaza and Sudan and Congo, they're comparing the realities. Some of them are actually upset about this celebrity culture, and they understand it as well. So I feel like with more access to live footage across the world, I think it puts people in a conundrum, and for them to think a little bit more critically.
That sounds absolutely exciting. And we will be watching what happens in November, but also in the next few years. We would like to thank Christina, Nesreen, and Madison so much for being part of the stream today and sharing your thoughts and your views with us here. And thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to stay in touch with us online. You can send us your questions and suggestions with the hashtag or the handle AJStream. Take care, and I'll see you soon.